What's up, everyone? John Matrix here. Hope you're all having yourselves a wonderful day. We're going to be jumping into the SCP universe here with the Exploring series as we check out SCP 2678. I think this is a video that he did a, aquatic SCPs video. I think this is one of the SCPs that was mentioned in there that he kind of summarized a little bit. I'm assuming we're going to go into a little bit more detail on this one. If it's the one I'm thinking about, we'll see. But yeah, so again, this is going to be SCP-2678. Links will be down below in the description, as always, to the original video without my commentary and reaction, and to the Exploring series channel. Please do me a favor, click those links. If you enjoyed this video, go give it a like. And if you enjoyed the Exploring series content and you haven't hit that sub button on this channel, what are you doing? Go over and hit the sub button on his channel. Give him a sub. Makes a lot of great videos for the SCP universe as well as others. Definitely deserves support. So please do me the favor and give the man some love. If you'd like to join us when we do these reactions live, we'd love to have you guys come and join our discussions. There is a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube members benefits and tiers that I offer. Love to have you guys come in here and join us when we do these discussions live. So if you want to take your sport to the next level, check those out, see if any of that would have any interest for you. But with all that said, let's jump into this video here. So again, this is going to be SCP-2678 by the Exploring series.
SCP-2678, the Vorehole. Cosmic horror as a subgenre is generally focused on cosmic indifference.
This video is pretty tame. Most pictures of sinkholes. For the full effect, head to DeviantArt, type in Vorehole while listening.
Meaning that humanity as a species is insignificant to the wider scope of the cosmos, including other alien species and ancient entities. Some stories feature our species as little more than playthings for an eldritch god, or food for an uncaring alien race.
Very much so.
Or sometimes even less significant, beneath some entity's notice. Oftentimes in these types of stories, there are those who are not fearful of the cosmic horrors, but instead embrace them.
True.
The Vorehole is an example of a cosmic horror that is, by all rights, pretty horrifying, but is not without its worshippers.
Okay. This might not be the SCP that I was thinking of. This could be something completely different. So scratch what I said at the beginning here. I don't know. I don't think this is the SCP that I was thinking of. Anyway.
For those unfamiliar, vorophilia is an erotic desire to consume or be consumed by another person or creature.
Yikes.
And although this article originally began as a bit of a joke, it ended up going in a pretty dark direction, as we'll see. 2678 is a phenomenon that manifests in the southeastern United States, primarily in Georgia, Florida, and the Carolinas. The phenomenon affects a few different things along remote highways, starting with altering billboards.
What?
Billboards will suddenly change to display advertisements for a travel destination or experience at a location in the region that doesn't exist. These advertisements include a powerful cognito hazard that affects the minds of most people that view it. It more often affects a driver than passengers, but some people are capable of resisting its effects. Those affected will proceed to pull their vehicle over, get out, and begin walking in the direction of a local structure, typically one that is dilapidated or derelict.
Interesting.
The entrance to this structure will become an access point, causing anyone who steps through it to be transported to an extra-spatial location of unknown origin. The Foundation has so far...
It sounds kind of similar in a way, I guess, to the SCP hotel that just kind of appears on the side of the road if certain criteria is met. If you've been driving for X amount of hours and it's late at night and blah, 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 and you're like all alone, this hotel will just appear at the side of the road, and there's a series of things that you have to go through in order to get in, to make it out alive, essentially. Seems kind of similar to this.
Been unable to determine unknown origin. The Foundation has so far been unable to determine where this location is, whether it is within our universe or is something different entirely. The location takes the form of a massive, ruined cathedral, with the areas outside of the cathedral blanketed in a thick, caustic fog, illuminated red by an unknown light. The walls and ceilings of the cathedral are covered in unknown religious symbols that bear some similarities to symbols connected to Fifthist.
Interesting.
I've already put out a couple videos related to Fifthist, but
And I'm pretty sure Fifthism, their god, is the entity that, like, if you know about it, it like kills you. It's like that being from another reality. I can never remember its SCP number, and I don't think it has like a name. Unless it's just what it is, the Vorehole.
in short, it's an anomalous religion that infects people into believing in transcending this existence and merging with an alternate reality known as the Fifth World. We'll get back to the Fifthist connection later.
Interesting.
In the floor,
And there's different branches of Fifthism, right? And you got the Rancor here. Or not the Rancor, what it... My brain isn't working right today. Sarlacc pit, that's what it is, not the Rancor. I don't know why I said Rancor.
at the center of the cathedral is a large pit, nearly 30 meters in diameter.
Sarlacc,
And
pretty
within
similar,
this pit
yeah.
is the mouth of a massive biological entity of unknown size. This is the titular Vorehole, as any individual that enters this cathedral is inevitably drawn for some reason to approach the pit and jump in. Drone footage has captured little of the entity's size and form, confirming only that the mouth of the Vorehole is connected to an incredibly long tube of flesh, filled with flagellum-like structures designed to move material further into the entity.
Yummy.
Individuals that enter the cathedral and proceed to enter the hole experience a number of symptoms, including increased lethargy, sensitivity to light, body temperature, tactile perceptiveness, and most notably, libido. In other words, people aren't just anomalously drawn to jump in, they also enjoy it.
Yeah.
The Vorehole seems to have first cropped up.
I mean, for a predator, that would be an interesting way of attracting your prey, right? Like having some kind of cognito hazard that draws them in, and then once they're within a certain amount of range, they gain a certain amount of pleasure by getting closer and wanting to jump in, you know, making your victims actually want to go in. A hell of a way to get, you know, food.
Up in the early 70s. The Vorehole seems to have first cropped up in the early 70s, as a number of individuals were going missing, with their cars parked and abandoned on the sides of roads. The cases were all closed, as obviously the police were unable to locate any of the bodies. In 1993, however, the Foundation caught wind of the situation, as there was a 2678 incident with a witness who claimed that they had been a passenger in a car when the driver suddenly remarked on a strange billboard, and then pulled over and got out. The witness followed the affected individual through a tree line to an abandoned building.
Yeah, I mean, like, you would think that would be more common, right? Like, how many people, I guess it would depend on how selective this creature could be on, like, its victims, right? But, like, how many people, how many families could be on, like, road trips, and the driver just sees this, you know, cognito hazard billboard that gets them to do this, like a family just gonna like, why did you walk out? Why are you walking? Like, they're not just gonna sit in the car or whatever and just watch this person. Like, someone will probably get into the driver's seat and drive after them and try to get them to come back in, or walk after them or whatever. Not just gonna let them like wander off out in the middle of nowhere, you know what I mean? So excuse me. And especially nowadays, obviously with cell phones, people would end up calling the police or something, because that would be a very strange situation. So yeah, you'd think that reports of this would be fairly common.
The witness followed the affected individual through a tree line to an abandoned building, but was unable to locate the person after they entered it. The Foundation got involved and began regularly patrolling major southeastern highways. Soon, during a patrol, personnel found a parked car on the side of the highway with a hysterical woman flagging them down. The woman claimed that her husband had suddenly parked and walked into some underbrush out of sight. The agents began to follow the man's path, but they were attacked by a different woman wielding a knife.
What?
They were able to subdue the woman, but weren't able to catch up with the man before he disappeared into a dilapidated electric substation.
Well, what? So there, the the husband's wife flagged down police, and then another woman was there that attacked them for trying to pursue the man. What?
Began to follow the man's walk, flagging them down. The woman claimed that her husband had suddenly parked and walked into some underbrush out of sight. The agents began to follow the man's path, but they were attacked by a different woman wielding a knife.
Huh.
They were able to subdue the woman, but weren't able to catch up with the man before he disappeared into a dilapidated electric substation.
I would have interesting. Okay. So is it a situation where, again, like, there's a branch of the Fifthist church or whatever that worships whatever this creature is, and it maybe lets them, because, like, I don't know, obviously I'm not this creature, but is this creature intelligent enough to, like, let a certain amount of people around it live because they feed it? You know, like, it helps, they help it gain sustenance, so in return it allows them to, I guess, you know, worship it or whatever, in return for it feeding them, and not coercing them to jump into its, you know, digestive system to be eaten. I don't know, because that's what I'm assuming this woman is some kind of religious zealot that is attacking the police and this woman to prevent them from preventing the man from going in and, you know, being sacrificed, fed, or whatever to this entity.
The attacker, 34-year-old Maria Jane Baker, was brought in for questioning. Maria claims that the Foundation was trying to stop the man from becoming whole, as he was guided there by a beacon, and his soul yearned to be stripped of misery. Maria, of course, has connections with the Fifthist,
Right.
surprising no one.
Yep.
And she says that they have been yearning for so long to be unified as one collective, dancing and writhing in eternal music together. According to the Fifthist, these earthly bodies might have once been able to feel the ecstasy of the sight of the universe, but they've since grown stale and cold, and they need to be shed through the Vorehole. Maria says that they begged the universe for a release from the prison of this reality, and the divine starfish answered their call.
Yep. Yep.
The divine starfish is the closest thing to a unifying deity in the Fifthist religion, an entity from beyond this existence,
Yep.
from the fifth world. The Vorehole's exact connection to the divine starfish is left vague, whether it's actually a physical part of it, or just an entity that the starfish utilizes to bring people into the collective.
It would be interesting if it was a physical thing, right? Because from what I understand, that entity, the starfish entity, is like only like partially right now. Like, it's trying to bring its full self into our reality to consume our universe and our reality, I believe. So it would be interesting if it was actually like a physical part of it, and that's like the only physical part of it that so far has been able to enter our universe. And it could be a reason why, you know, like, it being fed allows it to gain more of a presence in our universe, gain more strength. I don't know.
The Fifthist then taught the entity how to use billboards as beacons in order to lure other people in.
That's kind of fucked up.
Maria says that once all of the chosen have been taken, the Fifthist will enter the hole, and it will then remake the world. How many chosen there needs to be is also unknown, but obviously the Foundation are going to try and put a stop to that. Maria finishes out the interview by further elaborating on the sheer ecstasy of jumping in the hole and joining the collective. She says that humanity is meant to exist as a single mass, and that's the only way we'll ever feel true solace. Well, crazy people are crazy, But it doesn't change the fact that there is an organized effort to lure innocents to their deaths, or worse. The Foundation does what it does best, and sends in a D-Class in a hazmat suit. The test
Right.
log picks up as the D-Class enters into the cathedral, noting the size of the interior, and that he can hear a low groaning sound. He asks the supervising agent if he should keep walking, and then says that he feels like he should keep walking, showing that the compulsory effects of the hole are already working.
Yeah.
He notes that a red fog is permeating the cathedral and the exterior, barely able to see crumbled buildings in the distance. The D-Class begins panting, remarking how hot it is, wondering what would happen if he took his suit off, which is not advised by the supervisor.
Yeah.
Finally, he approaches the Vorehole, commenting how it feels like he's supposed to go in, that this is where he's supposed to end up. He notes how warm and inviting it looks before asking if he can jump in, which he is allowed to do. Not that the supervisor could do much to stop him at this point.
Yeah.
The D-Class jumps in the hole and begins being pushed through it, saying that he really feels the need to take the suit off. The supervisor assures
I wonder if he couldn't. I wonder if it's a situation where if he had the suit on, he wouldn't be able to be digested. So, like them, I mean, obviously, if I'm the supervisor and we're getting like feed of this, we would want it to last as long as possible. So I would try my best to have him keep the suit on. But wouldn't it be interesting if a side effect of it is that he doesn't get like really digested or whatever, and he gets spit out whatever the other side is, if there is another side, and then you get to see what happens, which obviously I would, would assume that's what they're hoping for.
him that if he removes the suit, he will suffocate immediately, but the D-Class continues to argue, spouting statements about release that echo comments made by Maria. It's clear that the D-Class is not suffering through the experience, but instead finds it rather enjoyable, particularly in an erotic way.
Yeah.
He eventually says that he can't tell if he's alive or dead in here, but he doesn't care, as this is where he is supposed to be. He does note before loss of communication that his suit has melted through, his skin is burning, and he is bleeding, but he finally removes the suit and helmet completely, and the supervisor loses contact.
Yeah.
Clearly, they're not going to get much further by throwing D-Class at it, so they send in something that can't be influenced the same way, a drone.
You think, anyway.
A Foundation agent becomes affected by an anomalous billboard, but is restrained by others to prevent him from heading towards it.
That would also be an interesting, question. Should you throw in a drone, and obviously you would want to have at least some kind of live streaming feed so you could see what's going on and so people can, maneuver it. But would people through the video recording be affected? If it gets close enough to the Vorehole, would people through the camera feed be affected and then want to go there? Because there's definitely clear cases of SCP anomalies being able to affect people through video feed pictures. I mean, just you look at Shy Guy alone, right? You see a picture of him or a recording of him, and it goes in its berserk mode and hunts you down and kills them as well. And there's other documented SCPs that have effects just by looking at a photo or something. So that would be interesting if that were the case then.
Instead, he is given the controls to a drone, and he begins piloting it towards the anomaly. He pilots it into the cathedral and down into the Vorehole. The tube connected to the hole is composed of a reddish, flesh-like substance.
I swear this sounds like what they're talking about here sounds familiar. I want to say it had something to do with 610 and a 610 video. Something about people going down underground during this long tunnel and seeing like red flesh and red fog, and there was some kind of cathedral or whatever where like people were like strapped into different like tables or whatever, and I don't know if they were being tortured or something. And I remember that being described that there were these entities like walking around with like lamps, and I don't know. It sounds similar. Um, so yeah, let me know down in the comments below if I'm. It's that one I think had to do with 610 if I remember correctly, but it's reminding me of it. It's just it sounds similar.
Coated with a sheer transparent liquid. The camera footage becomes a little less useful.
That is a hell of a
The flesh
sinkhole,
presses
brother.
up against the drone. But further down, a meshwork of small tendrils fills the tube, some caked in blood and viscera. Eventually, the drone runs into a lump of bone jutting out of the interior, and the area of the tube around it is leaking a greenish substance. It's also notable that by this point, the tube has curved considerably, and is now running in the opposite direction of its start. At this point, the drone is no longer moving on its own, instead being pushed along by the tube. The agent that guided the drone is now hyperventilating, and is escorted away while the rest of the team continues observing the drone. A loud groaning sound is suddenly heard, and the drone begins to move through the tube very quickly as its cameras and internal systems fail due to corrosion.
Damn.
A microphone on the drone picks up audio vocalizations, later analyzed to be determined as somewhere between 100 to 1300 unique human voices.
They're all just being absorbed into this thing and become they did say the woman did say that, you know, humans are wanting they're yearning to become one. So interesting. So it's literally like absorbing them all into like this one singular entity thing. It sounds very similar to the Daybreak stuff with, you know, the blobs or whatever.
The voices are hypothesized by analysts to be singing.
Huh.
A camera on the drone comes back online, showing it hanging above an open space, and beneath it is a writhing mass of featureless figures. The figures are covered in a thick white fluid, and it seems that the audio vocalizations are coming from this mass.
Yeah.
Another loud groaning sound is heard, and something opens up beneath the mass, causing the figures to fall away out of sight. The drone is then struck by something unseen and goes offline completely. It would certainly seem that there are people still alive in there,
Yeah.
although not exactly in a desirable state of existence for most people.
I mean, I don't know. Like, we would think it's not desirable, but who knows? Maybe they're in some kind of permanent state of bliss. You know, who knows? But yeah, that sounds pretty terrible.
The Foundation isn't done with the Vorehole yet.
Like, are they just being like? It doesn't sound like they're just being digested and eaten. It sounds like they're just merged together with this entity in some way. How or why, you know, I don't know. It also reminds me of the like I was saying at the beginning of this, the aquatic SCP or whatever, where we see the two scuba divers going through the digestive system of some creature, and you know, they get to a certain part and there's like a bunch of people like still in there, and the female scuba diver like makes it out. Like, that one was pretty terrifying, like listening to that description. But I don't know, there's just a lot of similarities between some of the various SCPs.
And while you might think the standard sequence of operations would mean sending in an MTF next, they instead sent in another D-class.
Really?
Unlike the first one, however, this one was supposed to just observe the various symbols filling the cathedral. The first clue that something's going to go horribly wrong comes from the D-class himself.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just being in proximity, that's not gonna work, right?
Who says that something doesn't feel right. On their way to the anomaly, they felt like something incredible was going to happen. But now that feeling's gone. Instead of entering a cathedral, the D-Class is standing in a dark stone tunnel with a low ceiling and a black drop-off to their left.
Interesting. So is the cathedral part of the cognito hazard? Like, is it... Did the cathedral not actually exist? If that's the case, then how did it show up in the drone footage? Because it showed up in the drone footage, right? I believe so. So unless the cathedral's been moved because the creatures maybe... I don't know. That's interesting.
The smell in the room is so bad that they immediately vomit, comparing it to sewage, but far worse.
Yikes.
They continue down the tunnel, noting that the ground is very slick, covered in some sort of white liquid.
Ugh.
The supervisor instructs them to get closer to the drop-off, and the D-Class says that there seems to be a canal of a really thick, slow-moving liquid that smells extremely strong. The D-Class hears something coming from one direction and is instructed to head towards it. After a short while, they complain about feeling woozy and nauseous, and that the ground is incredibly slick and slimy. As they approach a bend in the tunnel, their microphone picks up the sound of flowing liquid, and their heart rate begins to spike. The D-Class expresses strong trepidation in continuing around the bend, but they are urged forward by their supervisor. Around the bend is a big room, and the canal of thick liquid seems to be dumping into a swirling basin. Above the basin in the ceiling seems to be the end of the Vorehole, a tube dumping out fluids and viscera.
So did the Vorehole move after, and it ate a certain amount of people or whatever, and it really did digest them, and now it's like pooping out its waste? Is that what's happening here?
The D-Class desperately wishes to leave by this point, but before they are able to do so, the floor begins tilting inwards, and they tumble into the basin.
Rip.
In between gasping for air and vomiting, they note that there are body parts everywhere, and they end up holding onto a ledge with a mass of faces beneath them, each looking at the D-Class and screaming.
That would be terrifying.
The D-Class begs for the Foundation to come get them before contact is lost. Well, that's just all pretty horrible.
No kidding, brother.
What's clear here is that the Vorehole and the entity or entities associated with it is luring in innocents, altering their minds to find the experience pleasurable, and then digesting their bodies and keeping them alive.
Yeah, like, why is it keeping them alive? Unless, again, it's because the woman at the beginning said it, I don't remember quote for quote, like exactly what she said, but it was something about, humanity yearning to become one being. So it could be that, yeah, it's keeping them alive to make some kind of like hive mind thing, some kind of weird, twisted, organic flesh Borg thing. I don't know. Maybe somehow it feeds off of their thoughts or something. That just, yeah, an eternal existence of that sounds awful.
What's a little less clear then is the why, or more specifically, whether or not this anomaly is doing what the Fifthist want to claim it's doing.
Right.
On the one hand, the Fifthist could be completely correct, that this reality we're in is not the best possible reality, and that we are meant to be unified as one collective in the fifth world, thanks to the Vorehole and the divine starfish. On the other hand, the Fifthist could just be completely insane.
Yep.
And are feeding people to an eldritch horror who keeps them alive in an endless existence of mindless torture. On the third hand, it doesn't really matter either way, as chances are people aren't going to be interested in jumping in the hole unless they're forced to.
Yep.
And the Foundation is going to keep preventing any of this from happening.
Well, I mean, who's to say the creature can't move either, right? Like, how are you going to contain something like that, I guess? And who's to say, again, like, it couldn't just move to another location?
It does beg the question of why the final D-Class wasn't taken to the cathedral, but instead sent to the bottom.
Right.
Perhaps the entity knew it was being observed and wanted the Foundation to see a little bit more.
True, or didn't want to see something, or like I said, it had had some kind of fill and was trying to get, poop out its waste or whatever. That white liquid could be what is the byproduct of it digesting people, and it's trying to like spew it out somehow. And it just happened to walk in when it was going to take a poop.
Like I said, the Vorehole did begin as a bit of a joke, but it now stands as proof that any concept, no matter how ridiculous, can be made into some horrific fiction.
I mean, yeah, that's a pretty terrifying thought. We got a quote though here. You know what ecstasy is? You know what it's like to feel release, to feel true release, free from the bindings of not only our painstaking daily lives, but our mortal forms. We are meant to be one. We're meant to feel and to exist as a collective. Only when all emotion, all feeling, all pleasure, and pain alike is concentrated into one mass, one existence, can we truly experience solace. We, you and I, here at this table, we are fragments of a mosaic that could be so much more. That's definitely some insane, crazy quote thought process there, but that's what happens, I guess, when you worship some kind of entity like that. Yeah, it sounds terrifying. And like I said, I mean, for a predatory being or whatever, it kind of sounds like a Venus flytrap in a way, like, to my understanding how Venus flytraps work. They look like a flower that bugs would want to pollinate, and then obviously they land on it, snatches them up, and it just slowly digests them over time. And it sounds like a similar situation where, it attracts them somehow through an, cognito hazard. They go to it. As they get to it, I would assume somehow through psychic means of some sort, it's able to, stimulate them and make them feel like a pleasurable sensation as they're getting closer and closer to it and wanting to actually join it and digest. And then once it has it, I mean, who knows then what the experience is like. Are they then, are they, because the drone, I guess, was saying that they were hearing singing, so is it a situation where they are having a pleasurable event happening, or are they just being tortured for all of existence in some unknown way? Like, is this creature just keeping them alive and their thoughts and emotions somehow are feeding? Like, who knows? Or maybe, I mean, who really knows what the end game is? Like you said, what is the why? So I don't know. It sounds awful no matter what, because you're no longer yourself, and who knows exactly what your existence is. It sounds pretty terrible. But yeah, that was the Exploring series with SCP-2678, the Vorehole. Links will be down below in the description as always to the original video without my commentary and reaction, and to the Exploring series channel. Please do me a favor, if you enjoyed this video, go and give it a like. And if you haven't hit that sub button yet on the Exploring series channel, please do me a favor and going over there and doing that. He definitely makes a lot of great content for the SCP universe and others, and he deserves the love. If you'd like to take your support for this channel to the next level, there is a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube membership benefits and tiers that I offer. When I do these reactions live, we'd love to have you guys come and join our discussions. But there's also some other benefits there that you can take a look at if you don't want to, take yourself to the next level. But regardless, thank you guys very much. Hope you're all having yourselves a wonderful day. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like and a sub. It helps me and the channel grow. If you're in the States and are getting ready to travel for holiday season here, hope you guys have safe travels. Enjoy Thanksgiving with the family, all that good stuff. And we'll see you guys in the next one.